Hello and welcome to Audio Nirvana, where we're in the eternal pursuit of musical bliss. So, thanks again for joining me in this third and final video where we'll talk about the structure of these reviews before we get into the rest of the channel. So, one of the main things I wanted to discuss is, as a listener, as a viewer of audio reviews, of tech reviews, specifically within this space, one of the things that I've always experienced and has been a little bit frustrating on occasion is that the terminology and the angle and the approach, even if it says that it's for beginners and so on, it's often really aimed at people that are already in this journey. And as a result, it can seem a little bit alienating. You know, when a reviewer sort of says that, the top end is shimmery, or the bass lacks weight, or the treble is hot. I've tested this on, lay people that aren't audiophiles, so to speak, and they have no idea what on earth I'm talking about. And so when we speak like that in videos, I believe it doesn't create a pathway for a non-audiophile to come in. It actually creates a barrier because it feels like it's too high. They're speaking about really technical things, and the fact of the matter is that we're not. We're just trying to communicate something that's quite difficult to communicate because it's audio. How do you explain what something sounds like? Either way, that's something that I've always struggled with a bit. And I'm going to try and use a slightly different approach. I'm going to try and simplify the language as much as I can. I'm sure other reviewers are doing the same, and I've been inspired by many of these great reviewers. But I'm going to give it my 2 cents and see where we can take this. This brings me to the mission of this channel, though. The mission is to not just speak to audiophiles, and that's something that I will certainly do, but the mission is to really speak to non-audiophiles, people that listen to music in their car, people that have only ever, engaged with wireless headphones, and for them getting more than one headphone seems laughable, seems silly. I've been laughed at with my friends. I mean, without even me showing them my insane setup, they'll think I'm completely mental. But the fact that I might have had 4 headphones, even before I got into the deep end of this craziness, I was always laughed at. So in a fun sort of way. But so I'm going to try and make this as accessible as possible. And so here's how I'm going to do it. So the reviews will be, or the conversations that I'll have, will be broken up into sort of 2 broad groups. And I've sort of taken inspiration from TED Talks. We'll call these head talks. So headphones, earphones, DAX amps. You get the idea. So there'll be things like concepts worth knowing, so ideas worth sharing, concepts worth knowing, and gear worth reviewing. So worth knowing and worth reviewing. So two types of. One will be knowledge focused, obviously, the worth knowing. The other will be worth reviewing, which will be the gear that I already have, and in future, as we move forward, gear that might be sent in to me for review. So within that structure, what I'm going to focus on is on the knowledge end, simplified explanations, getting rid of some misconceptions, and this idea of, is this music first or is this gear first? And John Darko, he talks about how he is a music first audiophile. I asked myself, am I music first or am I gear first? Well, the answer is both. I love gear, I love music. So you don't have to really choose, but I'll try and talk about these things in the knowledge part of this channel, which is worth knowing. And I'll tag the videos appropriately so this is a worth knowing head talk or a worth reviewing head talk, HED, head talk. All right, onto the structure of the reviews. So the reviews will follow what we'll call a meta review structure. So one of the challenges that I've had as a reader or as a viewer is I've often looked at videos and ended up having to go through 20 different reviews just to get enough of an idea, especially if it's a more expensive product. And I feel that's a bit too much. And so while it's great that there are different reviewers, and I'm sort of obviously jumping into the fray as well. While it's great that there are all these different reviews, I want to just make it a little bit easier. So I'm going to curate what I think subjectively are the top 5 reviews or the top 3 reviews for a particular product, and I'm going to summarize their views. But I'll also link all of those individual reviews in my description, including their affiliate links. I don't want anyone to miss out. So it's not about appropriating anyone's content here. It's about me providing subjective summary followed by a proper review, which is my personal views. And then I'll create playlists with the Audio Nirvana review as well as those 3, 4, or 5 reviewer reviews, including their affiliate links, the whole bit. So the idea is to make things more accessible, expand the scope of what you need to digest to get the right idea, and also create an environment where that is inclusive, where everyone can win. The second part of the reviews, there'll be the meta review, and then the Audio Nirvana focused review will be, acknowledging that there's no such thing as endgame. Once you're bitten by the bug, you're bitten by the bug, and you're constantly getting things. So the focus will be on sound, for sure, because it's audio. But I'll also talk about build and design and warranties and marketing and structure and things like that. I'm a business guy, and I understand where costs come from. And so I think it's unfair to think of reviews where you get a product that sounds great, maybe it's a $100 earphone. And then you go, well, this sounds better than a $350 earphone. Or this sounds exactly the same as a $300 earphone. So don't worry about that, buy this instead. But that sometimes misses the point that maybe the $300 thing is built better. Maybe it's got better warranty. Maybe it's got a better design. And we can't discount those things as consumers. If things don't look nice, if things aren't built durably, if things aren't supported well by the company, those are things that cost money to the companies that make those things. So I think we need to be clear about making sure that we compare sound, but also acknowledge where costs come from. So I might recommend something that sounds exactly the same at $100, but I might recommend the $300 product because I think that's built better and might last you longer, or is supported better, and so you'll get better warranty support. Things like that. And often I'll have first-hand experience with these things because I have the gear to show for it. So that's an important part of this. Now, finally, I'll also always include comparisons. One product that's slightly cheaper, one around the same price point, and one that's a little bit dearer. And the reason, again, is without a comparison, this conversation gets too esoteric. And there are reviewers that do comparisons really well, and there are reviewers that don't. But I will always aim to have a comparison. If I can't have a comparison, I'll let you guys know upfront in the review. And lastly, something that I'll do when it comes to the gear itself, like there's a headphone that I might be reviewing, and then what did you test the headphone on? I will always include the Apple dongle because I think it's important, because that's something that non-audiophiles understand. They've seen it, they get it, and it doesn't matter whether it's a $300 amp or a $3,000 amp or a DAC. How does it compare to the $10 thing? And it's important, again, to recognize in this hobby that the deltas or the differences aren't huge. Sometimes they are, but rarely. In the most part, the differences are really small. And because auditory memory doesn't last that long, even if you start listening to something that's not that great, your brain very quickly forgets it and you start enjoying that, because ultimately it goes back to it's about the music. So I will make sure that I remind everyone of that reality, irrespective of what we're reviewing, what we're looking at, what we're discussing. All right, and the last thing, as I conclude every review, there will always be a buy recommendation. So think of it like a Rotten Tomatoes, is it fresh? So it'll never be wishy-washy. So I'm never going to say, oh, if your budget allows for it, then this, or if your budget doesn't allow for this, then that. No. I will always say, is this worth buying? And I'll ignore the budget constraint there. because that's an obvious one. You know, if your budget allows for it, then is it worth buying? You know, that's the underlying assumption in everything. So I will always say, is it worth buying? And if it's not, then what should you buy instead? And you can choose to ignore it because I'm just a guy on the internet. But that's something that I will always include. The thing connected to that is reminding everyone that the most important piece in your music journey is the headphones or the speakers. You'll get the biggest bang for your buck, the biggest value difference if you get better headphones or you get better speakers. I'm not much of a speaker guy yet, so I can speak mainly to headphones. There are some things around speakers that I'll talk about in the future, but not now. So headphones most important, and then your amp, and then your DAC, and so on. So there's lots of things. I'll talk about this hierarchy in more depth in future videos. All right, let's wrap this up. So Patreon giveaways are coming up soon. Please check out Patreon, and I'd love for you to join Patreon so that we can build this wonderful community of audiophiles, budding audiophiles, experienced guys and girls that can then, you know, create joy and laughter together. I also have a little bit of a consulting pitch here for people that want complex setups in their gear. I'm pretty good with that sort of thing. So if you want to hire me for that, you can, again, sign up to Patreon, and you'll see links in there that'll tell you how you can do that. And lastly, if you like this video, please hit the like button. And if you like the way I'm approaching this, the way I'm approaching audio reviews and content, I would love for you to subscribe to this channel. Also, have a look at Patreon. And as always, thank you for watching. Be good and stay safe. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.